Let's go Broncos! Something big is about to happen in Denver, and the craziest part, almost nobody is seeing it clearly yet. There are whispers behind the scenes, subtle clues, and one very intriguing voice hinting that the Broncos are preparing a move that could completely change the direction of this team. And when someone with inside connections starts talking like this, you know it's not just noise. But here's the real question. Are we on the verge of witnessing a bold, aggressive step towards Super Bowl contention, or is this something even bigger that no one is expecting? Before we dive into everything, make sure you hit that like button right now if you truly believe this team is ready to shock the league this season. And I want you to drop a comment below saying, "Go Broncos! I believe this team is going all the way." Let's see how many true optimists we have here in Broncos country, because what's coming next might surprise you. Now let's get straight into it. What's fascinating here is not just the prediction itself, but the timing and the mystery behind it. Talib didn't specify whether this move is coming on offense or defense, but the way this roster is currently built gives us some strong clues. The Broncos have quietly positioned themselves as a team ready to contend, and when you bring back 17 of your own free agents, that sends a very clear message. This team believes it is already close to a Super Bowl level. So the question becomes, what's the move that pushes them over the top? One of the first areas that stands out is the running back room. Even after bringing back J.K. Dobbins and showing confidence in R.J. Harvey, there's still this lingering sense that Denver isn't done there. Internally, there's been talk about possibly upgrading the position either through the draft or via trade. And that's where names like Breece Hall and Alvin Kamara start to surface. Now think about this for a second. If Denver makes a move for a player like Hall, you're not just adding depth, you're adding a potential game changer. But it comes with a cost. The Broncos don't have a first or third round pick, which means any deal would likely involve future assets or players currently on the roster. And that's where things get complicated. Do you sacrifice a young talent like Harvey? Or do you find another way to structure the deal? At the same time, there's a strong argument that running back might not be the move that truly shifts the needle. And that brings us to another position that has quietly become one of the biggest question marks on this roster, tight end. Right now, the room hasn't seen significant upgrades. With Evan Engram and Adam Troutman leading the group, there's experience, but not necessarily that explosive Joker-type weapon that Sean Payton has historically loved in his system. And with Davis Webb now stepping into a play-calling role, there's a real possibility that the offensive philosophy could evolve. So what if the big move is here? Names like Sam Laporta, Cole Kmet, and Kyle Pitts have all been floating around in discussions. Each one brings a different dimension, but all of them would instantly elevate this offense. Imagine pairing one of those players with Engram. Suddenly, you're talking about a completely different level of versatility in two tight end sets. And then there's the defensive side of the ball. Losing John Franklin Myers leaves a noticeable gap, especially in terms of interior pressure. While the current roster still has solid pieces, there's room for another impact player. Some names have been tossed around, including Dexter Lawrence, but the fit and cost make those scenarios less clear. What's becoming obvious is this. The Broncos don't have many holes, but that actually gives them flexibility. They can afford to be aggressive. They can afford to take a swing. And when you combine that with Talib's confidence that something big is coming, possibly around the draft, it creates this sense that Denver is quietly setting the stage for a move that no one fully sees yet. This isn't just about filling a need. This is about making a statement. And here's where things get even more intriguing. Because when you start connecting all the dots, it feels like the Broncos might be preparing something much bigger than just a simple roster tweak. We already talked about offense. We already explored the tight end and running back possibilities. But now let's go deeper into what could be happening behind the curtain. Because if this move really is as significant as Aqib Talib is hinting at, then we might be looking at a calculated, multi-layered strategy from the front office. Think about this. The Broncos currently have one of the most stable rosters in the league right now. Out of more than 70 players, the overwhelming majority were already part of the team last season. That kind of continuity is rare, and it tells you something very important. This team isn't rebuilding anymore, they're refining. And when a team reaches that stage, the moves they make aren't about quantity, they're about impact. Now let's revisit the draft angle, because this is where the timing becomes critical. Talib suggested that this move could happen during the draft. That alone changes everything, because if it's happening during the draft, it likely involves picks, player swaps, or a combination of both. And with Denver lacking early round capital, they may need to get creative. Could they package players to move up? Could they trade a current contributor to unlock a bigger opportunity? These are real possibilities. One thing that stood out from everything we're hearing is that the Broncos have depth in specific areas: offensive line, wide receiver, and cornerback. That's where a deal could start to take shape. Imagine this scenario. Denver moves a player from one of those deeper groups, attaches a pick, and suddenly lands a high-impact starter at a position of need. That's how contenders operate. Now let's circle back to defense for a moment, because there's another layer here that can't be ignored. The loss of John Franklin Myers wasn't just about numbers, it was about presence. Interior pressure, physicality, disruption, those things don't just replace themselves overnight. And while names like Cam Jordan or even Von Miller have been mentioned as possibilities, there's also the chance that Denver targets someone completely unexpected, just like they've done in the past. That's what makes this situation so fascinating. Because if you look at how George Paton and Sean Payton operate, they don't leak information. Moves come out of nowhere. And when they do, they're usually calculated, aggressive, and designed to elevate the entire team. This isn't guesswork anymore, this is a pattern. And here's another angle that fans are starting to talk about more and more. What if this move isn't just about adding a player, but about reshaping the identity of the team? We mentioned earlier the concept of the Joker role, that versatile weapon who can line up anywhere and create mismatches. If Denver lands a player like that, especially at tight end or even hybrid positions, it changes how defenses prepare for them every single week. It gives Bo Nix another dynamic option. It opens up the playbook. It creates unpredictability. And unpredictability is exactly what this offense needs to take the next step. At the same time, there's still that lingering mystery, because none of these scenarios fully explain why Talib would be so confident again. Remember, he already got one right. That's not coincidence. That's information. So whatever is coming, it's real. And the closer we get to the draft, the more pressure builds. Because once that window opens, everything can change in a matter of minutes. A trade call, a surprise deal, a move no one saw coming. That's how quickly things can shift in the NFL. And this is exactly where everything starts to come together, because the more you analyze the situation, the more it feels like the Broncos are setting up a move that could define not just this offseason, but the entire trajectory of this team heading into 2026. Let's take a step back and really look at the bigger picture. This isn't a roster full of holes anymore. This is a roster that's already competitive, already structured, already aligned with what Sean Payton wants to build. And when you're in that position, you don't make random moves, you make targeted strikes. That's why the idea of this mystery move carries so much weight, because it's not about desperation, it's about precision. Now, one thing that stood out in everything we've been hearing is the idea that this move might not be obvious at first glance. It might not be the flashiest name. It might not even be at the position fans are expecting. But internally, it could be viewed as the final piece that unlocks everything. And that's where the draft becomes the perfect stage. During the draft, chaos is normal. Teams are moving up, moving down, trading players, flipping picks. It's the one moment in the offseason where something massive can happen without warning. And if Aqib Talib is pointing to that window specifically, then you better believe Denver is at least exploring scenarios right now behind closed doors. Here's another angle that hasn't been talked about enough: flexibility. The Broncos may not have early picks, but they do have something just as valuable: balance across the roster. That allows them to move pieces without collapsing a position group. And in today's NFL, that's how smart front offices create opportunities. So imagine this. Denver identifies a player. Maybe it's a tight end. Maybe it's a defensive disruptor. Maybe it's even an offensive weapon we haven't mentioned yet. They believe that player changes everything. Now all they need is the right package to make it happen. That's where the chess game begins. And don't forget, George Paton has shown before that he's willing to be patient, but also aggressive when the moment is right. Combine that with Payton's vision, and you have a leadership duo that isn't afraid to take calculated risks if it means elevating the team. Now let's bring it back to the field, because at the end of the day, everything revolves around putting this team in the best possible position to compete at the highest level.